Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, offering convenient delivery and free pickup to help with the busy times this holiday. Online customers enjoy the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Get started in the Safeway app or at safeway.com.
Can you name that tune? If you follow the Colorado music scene, you probably can.
Now for 17 years I've been...
The song is called S.O.B., and back in 2013, it was a breakout hit for Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Since then, the Colorado band has released a series of acclaimed albums, and they've been big supporters of local nonprofits. Last night, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats were officially inducted into the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. Congrats! I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, the job market is changing. Figuring out what you need to do to get the job you want isn't easy, but the state thinks it can help.
Basically, reshaping the focus from education to outcome.
Then, neighbors in Aurora banded together to fight a plan for fracking near their homes.
This application has created some of the most attention of any application that I have had before me since I've been on the commission.
An update on how regulators reacted to their pushback. It's a win for now. Plus, a reporter on an international assignment halfway around the world encountered a surprising fashion trend: Colorado hats.
Everywhere from Kunming to Shanghai, I saw them all across China.
It's Friday, December 12th. Here's the news in Colorado today. The job you're in now. How did you get there? Did you go to school for it, get an internship, just work your way up? The pathways to go from high school to a high-skilled career are shifting rapidly, and the governor says the state could be doing more to help people navigate them.
We really have a 20th century structure that hasn't kept up with the nature of today's work environment or the new and different ways that people can access skills through short-term academies, through innovative programs at community colleges and colleges, through apprenticeships.
So, Governor Polis says it's time for a new approach. CPR education reporter Jenny Brundin is here to talk about it. Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Let's start with what it's like to be a young person at the end of high school today. What are the choices they're facing?
Well, it's dizzying. There's community college and universities, but also training programs, apprenticeships, and more. The options are overwhelming. This report from the state found that there are 10,000 different degree programs, 4,500 workforce training opportunities, and 300 apprenticeships. And that's just in Colorado.
That is a lot for one person to have to navigate. And on top of that, we keep hearing about how AI is reshaping the job market. So even once someone chooses a career path, how can they know if that job will even exist in a few years?
Exactly. So if you're starting in the job market or looking to change course, it's not easy to know the best way to do that. And if you go down the wrong path, you could be wasting time and money on things that won't really prepare you for what you want to do. Here's how Polis talked about it this week.
If you start off as a dishwasher or a busboy, you might want to become a chef. You might want to become a manager. And how do you get that skills you need to be able to do that? And how are you aware of all the opportunities you have to achieve those?
Jenny, how does the state think it can help people with that?
It wants to create sort of a front door where people looking for any kind of career help can go to get good information about gaining the skills they need, including how long programs generally take and what they generally cost. So to do that, Polis wants to merge a bunch of programs that are currently divided up between different parts of state government and then roll them into a new department that would oversee higher education, apprenticeships, federal workforce funds, labor market data, and a lot of other things. Basically, reshaping the focus from education to outcome. And what's interesting is this is similar to what several Republican states and the Federal Department of Education have done. That's to focus more on career and technical education. But only the legislature can remake departments like that, so we'll see if lawmakers take him up on it.
He still has to get some real buy-in to this idea then. What about traditional four-year college? Where does a bachelor's degree fit into this focus on getting people prepared for future jobs?
Great question. Polis says that, of course, higher education is about more than just preparing people for the workforce. There's research and innovation and civic contributions. But he wants to make sure that if a student chooses to major in philosophy, say, or anthropology, they have a clear sense of what their job prospects will be on the other end.
And the suggestion there is there may not be a lot of job prospects.
People might think that, but actually, the CU chancellor once told me that people with those liberal arts degrees generally do quite well. There's data showing that 15 years out from graduation, philosophy majors are actually in the top 10 for income. Why it works out that way, that might be something this new department will try to explain.
CPR's Jenny Brundin covers education. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
People who live near the Aurora Reservoir scored a victory this week. That means, at least for now, there won't be new oil and gas wells near their homes and near the city's water supply. A Colorado commission delayed the plan for that fracking. CPR climate reporter Ishan Thakur is here to tell us about the latest development in an ongoing battle between community members and the oil company behind the project. Ishan, we spoke with you about this a few months ago. Can you remind us about what's being planned for the community there?
Yeah, so the original proposal was to drill 32 oil and gas wells on Lowry Ranch. That's a huge space in unincorporated Arapahoe County, and it used to be a bombing range for the Defense Department. So it's now owned by the state, and it already generates a ton of money every year from existing oil wells. And that money goes into the state education fund. But these proposed wells were going to be pretty close to the Aurora Reservoir. That's a main water supply for the city, and they're also right near a subdivision that looks out onto the ranch. The closest homes there are less than a mile away from the proposed pad.
So community members are worried about their local water supply and other potential health impacts.
Yeah, that's right. At a public meeting in September, more than 250 people showed up to voice their concerns.
I'm going to ask that y'all look into my eyes, because I am one of the people whose health is going to be dramatically affected by this. I have respiratory issues, and they are going to get worse.
You know, a lot of them wanted the project stopped entirely, but if the state wouldn't do that, they at least wanted it moved further away from their homes.
And that brings us to Wednesday's vote. What happened?
So this was a vote by Colorado's Energy and Carbon Management Commission. They're responsible for regulating the state's oil and gas production. So after hearing days of testimony, the commission was weighing whether or not to approve the plan for the development of those 32 wells. Here's John Messner. He's one of the commissioners.
There's no doubt that this application has created some of the most attention of any application that I have had before me since I've been on the commission.
And so in the end, in a 4-1 vote, the commission decided to delay the proposed fracking project. And here's what that means. It will give the oil and gas company time to submit more information for another proposed drilling location. And it will also allow a local advocacy group called Save the Aurora Reservoir, or STAR. They can keep lobbying regulators to move those wells further away from homes.
So more time for both sides. How much longer could it take for the final decision to be made?
We don't know exactly. The postponement is technically indefinite, so that timeline isn't totally clear. But both the oil and gas company and STAR seem to find a silver lining in the commission's vote. The company was optimistic that they'd be able to win state approval after submitting additional information. And that could include moving the well pad further east. On the other side, STAR's president seemed to be happy that the commission took community input seriously, and he said they'd work closely with the oil company and the state to find a better place for those wells.
Ishan, could this community pushback in Aurora, which seems to have at least some success so far, could it have an impact on future oil and gas projects in the state?
So it is an example of how communities are using a new law that's meant to give them more say in where companies put their wells. And it's worth noting that this particular drilling location, it's just one phase of a larger effort to drill new wells on the Lowry Ranch open space over the next 5 years. And, several of those already have been approved. But this particular location ran into sustained opposition, and the community and residents, they may get the changes they're hoping for.
CPR's Ishan Thakur, thanks for the update.
You bet.
Colorado has become quite the fashion trend and a place you might not expect, China. Reporter Andrew Fedorov was in that country earlier this year, and everywhere he went, he noticed something: locals wearing hats emblazoned with the word Colorado. He wrote about the trend for GQ magazine, and he's here now to tell us more about it. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Buzzy.
So what do these hats look like, and where did you see them?
So basically everywhere from Kunming to Shanghai, I saw them all across China. They're these baseball caps in muted colors, navy, burnt orange, with Colorado in collegiate font and a slight arch across your forehead. It was basically everywhere. I'm not even a Coloradan, and these hats were extremely conspicuous to me. So I wondered if native Coloradans living in China were also noticing this trend.
And you found some Coloradans who are living there. What did they think about this?
They're super fascinated by it and a little befuddled. I found two who live in China, and they both actually bought the hat themselves. They just saw it everywhere and couldn't resist. One of them told me that a lady on a motorbike going the wrong way on the street almost hit him, and as he looked up, he saw the hat. It's literally unavoidable. He says he sees the hat every day. The other guy said it initially made him feel proud of his home state. He would go up to people wearing the hat and tell them that he's from the place that's on their forehead. But it turns out a lot of people had no idea that Colorado is actually a real place.
So if they don't know what Colorado is or where it is, why are they wearing the hats?
A lot of the Chinese people I met told me that Colorado is essentially just a cool-looking English word. It has rounded letters and looks symmetrical. The word is also longer than something like NY on a Yankees cap. Internet users say the longer word makes their head look smaller, and that's a beauty standard in China. I also asked a Chinese travel marketing agency why the hat is so popular, and they drew an interesting parallel. They said the Colorado hat phenomenon is kind of like the fad of Westerners getting Chinese character tattoos in the 2000s. It just looks cool.
Ah, okay. From that perspective, I kind of get it. How did these hats end up in China in the first place?
So after doing some digging, I found three big factors. First, there was a marketing push from the Colorado Tourism Office.
Really?
That Chinese travel marketing agency I mentioned before, turns out they worked with the state tourism office. Back in 2016, the state sponsored Chinese travel influencers to visit. They especially loved Aspen, and their social posts gave Chinese citizens more awareness of Colorado in general. And even though the state ended that contract around the start of the pandemic, the Colorado brand kept getting more popular.
So the marketing push laid the groundwork, and then what?
So around the time the state pulled the marketing money from the country, Brandy Melville opened its first store in China. That's a trendy fast fashion company, and they started selling products with the Colorado name on them, along with other American places like Boston and New York. These designs were quickly ripped off by fast fashion sites, so the Colorado hat got super cheap and therefore easily accessible to the masses.
And you've reported on a third factor, and I'm wondering if this is actually the big one.
I think so. Maybe the biggest reason for the Colorado hat's fame is a K-pop star. K-pop is a very popular genre of music out of South Korea, and Rosé, a member of the internationally famous K-pop girl group Blackpink, was photographed a bunch of times wearing the hat. After that, the hat was everywhere. But honestly, its popularity might already be on the way out.
So soon? Why is that?
Well, influencer marketing experts based in China pointed out for me that the hype on social media has already died down a lot. Style trends tend to have a fairly short life cycle.
Well, at least Colorado hats are still in style here. Andrew Fedorov writing for GQ. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Colorado Today. Be sure to follow us in your podcast app. And if you hear something you like, share it. I'm Bazi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, celebrating the holiday with fresh local produce, quality meats, and seasonal favorites. Shop in-store or let Safeway do the shopping this holiday season with free curbside pickup using the Safeway app.